Well, good morning.
Good
We've
morning.
now travelled down to the mighty Tweed, and Brian has kindly agreed to speak to us at very short notice again. You've all been absolutely brilliant. So where are we, Brian?
We're on Dryburgh Upper, a middle Tweed beat not far from the town of St Boswell's.
And we're in another very, very smart.
It's not bad, is it?
Is it a hut or is it a lodge?
No, it's still classed as a hut. It's a fishing hut, and my boss and they've invested a lot of money in this, to provide decent facilities for the guests when they come here, which is quite important nowadays, really.
Yeah, that's getting to be a bit of an in-joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'll see. Anyway, so thank you very, very much indeed. You have been here how long?
This is my fourth season on this beat. Prior to this, I was gilling down at Lower Burgh, a beat near Coldstream. We were down in that direction, and I moved up here to a single-handed post 4 years ago now. So we're just starting my fourth season here.
Fantastic. And prior to that?
See, prior to that, I was a police officer for 30 years after I left school, just a boy. And I did 30 years in the police, and then when I left, I did a lot of guiding on deer as a business, taking a lot of clients out and a bit of part-time gillying. And then a permanent post came up on Lower Burgh, which I took, and did 3 seasons down there. And then, as I say, came here. This was four seasons ago now. So but I've always been involved in country sports. I started fishing when I was about 8 or 9 years old with my dad, fly fishing for trout, and then progressed into salmon fishing in my early teens. And I've been lucky enough to be a fisherman when the numbers of these fish were fantastic. I fished through that, and sadly now, obviously, I'm working in an industry where the stocks have declined so much. It's just nothing like it was, So I haven't seen it from an employment perspective, but I've obviously experienced it as an angler. And I'm friends with a lot of the gillies on this river that have been doing this job for 30 plus years, and it's tough for these guys. There's changes, and they've lived through some of the best years ever of salmon fishing. And I speak to them regularly. As I say, they're very good friends, and you consider that back in 2010, I think it was, this river produced 23,000 salmon to the anglers, and now we'd be looking at around about 6,000-7,000 roughly per annum. Last year was a better year. And there was about 10,000 fish caught last year, and that got everybody quite excited, but it's a one-off year. There was a lot of factors last year that helped boost those numbers, and to think that that's a return is just, it's foolish. It's not the case at all. It was a one-off good year. I mean, look at this year. We are sitting just now on, I counted the book earlier on, we're on, I think, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 fish so far this year. And last year, for the same time, we were on 30 springers. This year's been exceptional weather, which, not in a good way, which has obviously affected it, whereas last year it was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
We had lots of water. We also had the help. It seems a bit ridiculous to say we had the help of a seal, because a seal had entered the river last year and found its way all the way up to Middle Merton, which pushed a lot of fish up in front of it. It really snookered it for the lower beats, because obviously when the seal's in the beats, the anglers were just going home, pointless fishing when that's in the river. And there's so little you can do about that now. So we benefited because it pushed the fish into us, but it obviously affected the lower beats by preventing anything coming in behind it. So, and you're really tied with what you can do about a problem like a seal in the river. So, it's a funny old job to be working in.
Well, their appetites are huge, aren't
Unbelievable. And it's, you don't have to take my word for it. You can Google it. Just go into Google and start doing some research on the numbers of the seals on the Northumberland coastline. I think it's gone up about 3 times in the last 10 years. I can't remember the exact figure, so but I know it's a lot. It's gone up about 3 or 4-fold in a very short period of time. And obviously, when the seals are there and we've got our young, juvenile fish migrating down the river, your smolt run May and into June. It's a gauntlet that they're running. The goosanders on the river, the mergansers, the cormorants, they're all taking their toll on the numbers, and again, with legislation in place, you're really stuck with what you can do about that as a problem, which is a shame, really. You know, and I've experienced it. You know, my relatively short time on the river compared to some of the guys that have been here for, you know, guys that are now retiring after a lifetime on the river.
Yeah.
So you can see how it gets them down. You know, they're still optimistic. How can you be a salmon angler without being optimistic? You know, you can't. But you know, on a positive note, we move forward now, and I don't want to use necessarily the word lifestyle, but that's kind of the way it is now. It's that day out on the river with friends and experiencing nature and everything that a beat in a hut like this has got to offer. And you have to see a bit beyond just catching fish. You know, the numbers have reflected the prices now, because prices have dropped, you know, in a lot of places for what a day rod would cost.
Yeah.
But people, you read a lot about this, and social media is a poison chalice, let's be honest. You know, it's got its place, but you can't take it too literally. And you read things all the time about the cost of fishing and how it's still a ridiculous amount of money to spend. But what people forget is salmon anglers are investing a lot of money in this. The running of this beat, my wage and the truck, building a hut like this is paid for by salmon anglers who are investing a lot of money in their sport and maintaining their sport, which gives them access to private beats and, you know, the countryside that, you know, that we're sitting in just now. And it's overlooked by your dog walkers, your canoeists, your mountain bikers, and even your trout fishermen. And I'm a trout fisherman, but they're not paying to have these paths maintained and access left open to the river. Salmon anglers are paying for that. Virtually 100% is paid for by salmon anglers, because they're the ones that are paying enough money to have the privilege of fishing, but everybody else gets that benefit from it as well. And the social media comment was really through frustration of reading comments about cost of salmon fishing, and you think if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't have access as a trout fisher. If we stop streaming that, give it 1 year, and you won't be able to walk down the river.
Absolutely.
Like a jungle.
Yeah.
And that's coming from salmon anglers.
Yeah.
Don't care what anybody says, they're the ones that are investing in this river.
And you were telling us a little earlier about the fantastic work that you've been doing back in April with education.
Yes, so we ran a very much a community-based initiative, which we put together an event called the Tweed Salmon Festival, and that was through discussion with a very good friend of mine, Ian Fairgrieve, who a lot of guys will know if you're a fisherman. And Ian, with his usual enthusiasm and contacts, we put together this event with a lot of the other Ghillies, because everybody played their part in this. It's quite important that that's acknowledged. We put together this event, which was an introduction basically to fly fishing down at the Slush Roxburgh Hotel at Kelso in April this year. So we ran it with the Tweed Start, which is an organisation that Ian began many years ago. He actually started it in a field, believe it or not, and it got so big that he handed it over to the Tweed Foundation, who administer it now under their umbrella for Tweed Start. And Ben, who runs that, a fantastic, enthusiastic guy, he does a lot of education with kids in schools, introduction to fly fishing and so on. And I couldn't tell you how many, and I mean thousands of school kids have been introduced to fly fishing through the Tweed Start programme. So we put this event together, very much a community-based event, with great support from Patagonia and Yeti, big names and global names now in the industry, who sponsored the event and made it all possible with their financial support. Completely non-profit making. It was a free event, and we had between 800 and 900 people through the doors over the weekend, and we introduced 190 folk to fly fishing over the Saturday and Sunday. I think it was 120 kids and about 70 women fished basically for the first time. Over 80 trout caught in the pond on the Saturday alone. So it was a great weekend, and we're doing it next year as well.
That's fantastic.
Hopefully it'll be even bigger next year.
Yeah.
But it's important to know that community-based event is really where we see it now. The industry on this river, the salmon fishing industry supports way beyond. You think it's just the river and it's ghillies and maybe a little bit of accommodation. Well, it's not. You think about the woman or the guy that comes and maintains the gardens and the holiday lets, cleans these places. They could be miles away.
Yeah.
The Tweed catchment area is huge. You know, if you came down the A7, if you came down the A68, the minute you come over Sutra Hill, which is about 20 miles from here, anything that falls on the hill rain-wise runs into this river because it's all coming this way.
Yeah.
So you think about that catchment area of the river, well, the river supports just as big a catchment of employment and income. And if those fish disappear, it's not just me that doesn't have a job, it's the local bakers or B&B. You know, it's wide, far, so far-reaching, to be honest with you, this industry. But that's where we are now. So we think that these events are the way forward with education to keep people involved and introduce them to a sport that otherwise they may not have had access to.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Thank you so much, Brian. That's been absolutely
gone on a
superb.
bit, haven't I? But there's so much.
It's so much to say, isn't there?
Well, we're
there
passionate
really
about it,
is.
and I think that's the.
Yeah.
I think that's, in fact, just to finish on that. I think that is the thing that is so important. I know it's in me. Is this passion about what we do, and friends of mine on this river that I speak to regularly, Colin Bell at Floors and Martin Ritchie and Tom Davis, just to name a few. I mean, I've got lots of friends on the river, but you can hear the passion in these guys. You know, they're never going to be millionaires doing this for a living, but that's not the wealth that you're looking for. It's this connection to what we do, and the passion is where it really hurts them. Because if this keeps declining the way it is, we're okay. We're kind of stable just now. Forget last year. 10,000 fish last year doesn't mean a thing, as far as I'm concerned. One good year. We need to think about what's going to happen 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
We'll let you get back to your guests. And,
they're doing fine. We're going to put the kettle on, I think, actually. Before we go, they're getting on grand. We don't need me just now. So.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.